Hello and welcome to the Green Island podcast here. I'm on with a co-author with James Sheehan of Hard Border. This is our first novel in the Green Island series. We expect to have a lot more coming, and we're going to be continuing to talk, as you can tell from the name. Hard Border is set around the time of Brexit, and really is discussing, if you like, some modern day things that are going on in Ireland. We hope to bring that out in this novel and further ones and on this podcast. So with that, we'll get going. James, thanks for joining.
No, Bern, thanks very much for having me. And yeah, this book is available at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and a few others. And yeah, check it out. But this podcast virtually is rehashing that and just bringing the importance of Ireland and how it's been extrapolated across the world around the times of Brexit, and particularly before that, even with the Celtic Tiger crash. Things have really changed over the last 10 years. And it seems like it's being replicated throughout the world now. So it's this is where the relevance of this podcast and comes in handy, and a book just won't suffice.
Right. And it's also, kind of up to date, what's going on right now because things are coming fast and furious. And sometimes it's serious, and we also want to have like a little bit of fun as well, and be able to talk about things that like we did with our Christmas podcast there a couple of weeks ago, and be able to enjoy and talk about some fun stuff, or at least some things that aren't super serious all the time.
100%. Yeah. And like diving into Irish movies or Irish talent, or even talking about Conor McGregor, which is now tackling into the political side, but there's still an entertainment component to him, just taking up his next match. And we're going to follow that and report on it throughout the podcast, because it's all relevant, especially if he's going to run for Irish president at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll be following that and trying to encourage it, as much as we can with our little podcast that could. But one of the things we wanted to talk about today was, you'd mentioned Irish actors. We've got a little bit of a kerfuffle with Pierce Brosnan, known for James Bond. Did a great job during those, but he's charged with trespassing at Yellowstone National Park. I'll just read a little bit of this article. He's charged with going off the prescribed trail near the Mammoth Hot Springs in Yellowstone National Park, and as a result, he is due to appear in court in Wyoming at the end of the month. And as the article says here, it may sound like a trivial situation wandering off the path in a national park, but it's an offense the U.S. National Park Services takes really seriously. And I don't know if he's ever watched Yellowstone, the TV show, at all, but it certainly seems like it's dangerous if you're not on there. And you hear all the time about people just disappearing in these national parks. So I don't know what he was thinking, but it's, if he gets a fine or what have you, that's really not that big a deal compared to losing his life, because that can really happen pretty quickly in these areas when you're not on the trail.
Yeah, and he is a celebrity and the rules don't apply to him, and he probably wanted to go take a look at something that wasn't on the normal trail.
Right.
To be honest with you, from my limited knowledge of Yellowstone, I'm almost certain that it's almost going to blow soon. From my understanding, that it's ready to pop, and it's not like a big chunk of it is kind of the top of a volcano. It's not just like a little volcano will pop up. The whole bloody park is a volcano, from what I understand, or a good portion of it. So when it goes off, I think I saw some kind of documentary about if that just goes off, it could fill up just an ash like Texas, a couple feet deep in ash,
Yeah.
or something like that. Something crazy statistic. So it's not something, but Pierce Brosnan is kind of, on top of, from what I understand, he's not a very nice man.
Oh,
He's kind of a
really?
dick.
Okay.
Oh yeah, which kind of, when I heard that, was a shame, because
That is a
growing up with
shame.
them on Remington Steele and getting James Bond. Remington Steele, for anybody who doesn't know, was kind of an English kind of show, but he was kind of that James Bond character. He's kind of a private eye,
Yep.
and he was really good looking, and he wore the suits, and and it was kind of a disappointment, because we're quite happy to have him as an Irish guy, Irish actor, well known and charming and everything. And so, yeah, that's why I understand, because he was kind of one of the spokespeople for the Special Olympics that went on in Ireland when I was there. And he was kind of one of the main guys to kind of promote it. And from my understanding, he's a real piece of shit. I mean, just a dick,
Oh
not a piece of
man.
shit, but just a dick, you know? Other than that, his James Bonds were pretty good. Remy Steele's always a good watch, although it
Yep.
has that 80s look and feel. And, whatever his other stuff he does is non-significant in my opinion, but at least, he is what he is.
Well, I'm
100% Irish, I believe.
I mean, he was, yeah, I think he's from Navan, so we've got some family that's not that far away from there. And that's a, I always thought that he was a pretty good representative of Ireland, and was a great James Bond. I think that first one that he was in, Goldeneye, that was kind of a game changer for them, and really moved them out of the Timothy Dalton era and into maybe a little bit more kind of post Cold War, but they had an idea of what they wanted to do with them. And I think that's a classic. That is a great flick, and it really stands up.
Ladies first.
James, I want you to stop this car.
Really?
Stop this car at once!
As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
James, you're incorrigible.
Oh, well, he's the perfect James Bond for the day. I mean, charming, a little bit of action, but I mean, not the James Bond today or the like that Bourne Identity rawness of it, but a very charismatic and always got the hot girl. And so it was definitely and that's what made him so appealable. And it was great that he got those roles, and I really enjoyed those James Bonds in that time. But now when you compare him to today's James Bonds, it's kind of hard to watch because the new ones are so awesome or raw. It's that Bourne Identity kind of, he'll do anything to get the bad guy. So Pierce Brosnan, however, he has to have his dryer and his comb ready to rock. But that's just the difference of them.
Well,
but
yeah,
otherwise, great James Bond.
I think that moved it back a little bit more away, especially away from, kind of that 70s era James Bond where it was all fun, and it was more the Union Jack was flying and stuff like that. And they were just trying to, there was a constant like winking at the audience, where he definitely did have some danger to him. Like he was hitting people and shooting folks and he didn't care. So that was, I thought, a good James Bond. But like you say, kind of the modern James Bond is a little bit, really ruthless, if you like, and just like a stone cold killer. I'm not as big a fan. I kind of like that more adventure versus, I don't know, just that it just seems now that, or at least it was with Daniel Craig, it just seemed kind of, like you said, raw.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but Casino Royale is probably pretty awesome, and but that's Pierce Brosnan. But my interpretation is he broke the law on purpose because we live in a day and age where celebrities and people get away with a lot of illegal activity, and if he gets caught, what is it going to be, a fine, which he has tons of money to pay, but I guess the PR, but what's that going to affect? I mean, he's kind of in and out of movies anyway, so I don't think it has a big effect on him. But there you go, like breaking the law. But Yellowstone could be worth it. I'm not really sure.
I guess, like I said, I think he's lucky to be alive, because there was an English actor, and I'm blanking on his name now. He went up to into one of these national parks in California. I think he went hiking or something, and he was gone. And they found his body like months later, and he was fairly well known. Like he's kind of like one of these guys. Once you recognize that face, you're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. And he kind of had a classic English look about him. I guess he lived in LA like everyone does. but at the same time, it's dangerous as well. It's not just like for a laugh. So I really mean it when I say that he's lucky to be alive, because there's just so much that goes on up there, and people disappear all the time. But if like he were to disappear, at least folks would go looking for him, whereas a lot of people just disappear and you don't know what happens to him. So I guess we'll just kind of look at that and, see what else he does, how that comes out. But, like you say, it's probably just going to be a fine and stuff. But one other thing before we do go, the Thomas Crown affair, or Thomas Crown movie that he was in years ago, that was also really good. And that was not a spy movie, but I thought that one really stands up too.
It's a great one. That's one of my all-time favorites. I just have one problem. I don't know how he crushed the painting in the briefcase. It still doesn't make sense to me. I'll probably have to show it up. But besides that, the movie was pretty solid, and I really enjoy those type of, theft movies or heist. But I don't, again, when he kind of got the painting at the beginning and duped them all, he kind of put it in a briefcase and then smashed it to turn it in half. And then yet when he brought it home, it was back to its original. So I didn't really understand that, and that kind of always bothers me when I watch that movie. But however, it's got some a hot chick, and she doesn't mind to show the goodies, and it has a bit for everybody.
Evening, sir.
Hey, Paul. Want to put this in the study?
I set out a bottle of wine.
Thank you. I may have won a cruise. Oh, yes.
Well, it was and it's got a lot of great actors in it too, and it's a lot of fun. And I thought he did a good job as kind of that smarmy, high finance kind of M&A guy. So maybe that's a little bit more what he's like in real life. If you're you're saying the rumors are that he's kind of more of a dick than he is of kind of the nice guy.
Yeah, that's probably it. Who's that other guy? The detective, Dennis Leary? I like that guy. He's solid. Another Irish guy, I think. Is he?
He's Irish. He's Irish American, but I mean, I don't know. I can take a little bit of him, and then after that, it gets a little annoying. Yeah. So I thought there was too much of him in there. To be honest with you, it's just okay.
The hardcore cop on his, in his bad days or whatever. All that
crap. Yeah.
Trying to go after the hot lady. What were you thinking? You can't afford her.
Exactly. Not on a cop salary, dude. No offense. I think he is New York, though. Is he a New York guy? Because, I thought that was authentic, if nothing else.
I'm assuming he is. I would say he is, because it's kind of that type of role, kind of the hard New Yorker look. But I can't be for certain, on that regard. But Yeah, that's Pierce Brosnan for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's just more of an actor that, is kind of well revered and has a bit of an attitude with it for whatever it's worth. It's so there we are. Another Irish one, but I think a few more we'll be talking about because I'd love to talk about, as we go, like the different ones that are out there, like Cillian Murphy, who I could tell a good story about, and stuff like that as we progress with the podcast.
Yeah, maybe we'll revisit Cillian Murphy when Oppenheimer kind of comes out in video and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Yes,
I haven't
exactly.
I haven't seen that yet, but I really like to. I've seen snippets of it, and it's like, oh, it just sucks me in, makes me want to see the rest of it. But I just haven't yet, so maybe we can come back to that too. Because
And it's
also
Christopher Nolan, so you're not going to go
Yeah.
too wrong.
exactly.
You know?
I was just gonna say he was great in even all the Batman movies as well.
Exactly, and a few others. So yeah, we'll carry on with him and see how it goes because I think the Oscars nominations came out last week, and I heard it was kind of a pretty much a joke because they have the usual five top movies, but then they added another five movies for kind of, I guess, diversity's sake or
Okay.
however. And
Okay.
no one knows who the other five movies are. It's like, the top movies, and then there's a few other movies. And I was kind of listening. They're like, we don't know any of these movies. And it's kind of funny that they're now there's 10 people to pick from instead of the usual 5 or 6. But of course, Oppenheimer is on the top of the list. And I will say we'll probably, clean up for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, probably. All right. Do we want to switch gears back to a little bit more kind of what's going on in Ireland here? Touch on some of the things we've talked about before.
Yeah, that'd be great, particularly the last episode about the fires and stuff like that.
Yes.
It looks like as you projected, it's not stopping, it's just beginning.
Well, there was an article recently about protests in Mayo over plans to house 50 male migrants in a local hotel there. So that's kind of coming out that, yes, here we go. This is this spot in Ballinrobe in County Mayo. And they again plan to have over 50 migrants in this small town to be housed at a local hotel. So that's out there, at least if nothing else, it's kind of getting out there early. I don't know if this hotel is still in use or what, but I feel like as I sent over to you before we talked here, I feel like there was another situation before I get to that. There was, I think, another one that they were publicizing in Dublin too that we saw last week that was going to be housing migrants. And as this has kind of been publicized more and more, it feels like it's that meme, from Mad Max of that these are kind of bait that they're hoping, maybe not hope is too strong a word, but if anybody tries anything and tries to burn these out, that they'll catch them in the act and maybe make an example of them.
I wonder about that, if it's a trap or who knows, because again, there's iron's as leaky as a sieve. So if it is a trap, that would almost leak out as well.
Okay, that's
But
interesting.
I don't know. That's my thoughts. I would be weary, but as we saw in like the last episode, like we even showed a clip of Michael Collins, how he was showing him how like a torch is a pretty good weapon. Just starting a fire. And I think it's great. I think it's a great to see the Michael Collins film and how it kind of does that, and then what people are kind of reverting back to on that regard. But whether it's a trap, we'll wait and see, because I'm assuming there's a lot more targets. I think the statistics just the last 2 years is about 300,000 people. That's a lot of people to hide in a population of 4 million.
Right.
So I think there's a lot more hotels that will be used. And the sounds like, again, it's a government type building owned hotel that was taken over, because these little hotels in like Mayo and stuff, they don't have the clientele to kind of keep it afloat. So I would say it was kind of almost repossessed, and that's their housing, because they're not going to give the money to hotel proprietors to make a fortune off of them. They're pretty much are using, again, my theory, they're using existing assets the government has. That says, oh, well, we have 20 hotels or 100 hotels on our books, and 30% of them are vacant. let's just fill them up with these guys. And
Yeah.
so I would say there's a good list of them. But whether the cops have around the clock security to kind of monitor them is another thing, you know?
That's right.
It's kind of interesting. I think almost at this point, you can almost get a drone to drop the fire on the building at this point. You know, you don't even need to be anywhere near it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Don't
possibly.
give them any ideas, but I mean the drone technology is insane now, right? You know, you can get anywhere and see pretty much anything. And like these kids are just so incredible how they're so good at it. But I guess that's anything with practice, and you're just seeing that technology be used more and more. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's a big driver of the conflict in Ukraine, you know, that they're using a lot of drone technology. So it's definitely becoming, you know, standard operating procedure.
Yeah, so why can't you get a drone to start, you know, drop a little Molotov cocktail on a building? Like the drones are incredible and there's no fingerprints if they cannot shoot it down, and it goes what, miles?
Yeah.
So there's plenty. I mean, the Irish are smart. They're not going to get caught. This was a message, and it's there's other ways to skin that cat, I would say, as well. So a lot to come. It seems like people are getting ideas, and the government. It's kind of funny, as you said. Now the papers are kind of starting to say the government better get this under control before people get hurt, and we've been saying that from the last couple of episodes.
Yep.
Because the government's kind of you know what they're doing here. Oh, nothing to see here, nothing to do there, and it's just like, okay. But there is, and then you go and says, well, we're going to hold back funding for a very important project, and then they say, well, screw the project.
Right.
We still want the borders open. So you see, it's a priority for these governments to have the borders open, but yet pretend that this is a problem that was created by some other administration, even though they've been in there for hundreds of years. It's a joke. Like just let's fill up with different types of people. And hopefully we can garner their vote if we give them more of the public's money, except they don't know how pure economics works, which is the people need to work to create the taxes to get give the money. But in the socialist world of Ireland, they saw a new way, which is we'll just take your money. We'll create a property bubble, we'll collapse you, we'll take all your assets, and then we can shelve them out until that runs dry. Saying that
There was an op-ed in the Irish Times, and it's by Pat Leahy. Or Leahy, maybe I'm pronouncing that incorrect, but the title is "The Burn Them Out Craze Will End in Tragedy Unless the State Quickly Gets a Grip." And that's exactly what we said last week, that they need to figure this out and fast, because somebody is going to get hurt or killed. And it's on the government to figure it out, not necessarily just kind of try to do these traps or whatever it is they're trying to do, but really put a solution in place that will avoid this altogether. I feel like they're just full speed ahead, and they're gonna see what happens from that. It's not going to be good. I mean, that they're just going to continue to try to shove it down people's throats. I don't know if that's going to work. I really don't think it's going to work if this is the way things are going, because people are fed up.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't matter if it's going to work for them as long as they get people in. I mean, how many people's lives, how many people have been killed or hurt because of the migrants?
Yeah.
I don't think they really care at this point. They've been given a directive to get as many people in there. It doesn't matter who gets hurt, who comes across, so why would a couple 30 people in a building being lit on fire going to stop them? They would almost use it to blame the other side and start bringing in more hate speech laws and other type laws to arrest people. They won't. This is if it's a setup, it's going to be a setup along that line where you'd almost watch out for the government to light that they're not lighting on fire, because they're just, the world's gone freaking mad now. And and let's get 30 guys in, light on fire, and then they'll blame some other people. I mean, these they're not humans. Not only they're citizens, but the immigrants are not humans to these politicians. They're numbers on a sheet, and they don't interact with them. They don't talk with them. They talk with the elites, and when they don't care who dies, they'll have their crocodile tears. But as long as their agenda is being moved forward, it's all they care about, because they only care about themselves. If they move forward the agenda, they're moving forward their own careers, whatever that may be, or their own pocketbooks. And that's why term limits The way to solve all these world problems is term limits, significant term limits on every single politician, and get them out of there. Every single one of them, you know?
Well, that's definitely one way for them to go. I mean, again, kind of continue to cram it down people's throats, and if they go kind of that false flag way, I mean, there's really no end in sight. There's no bottom for them. It's just going to continue to spiral, and that's. I guess I was trying to look in the bright side, and say that okay, yeah, they'll try to fix this, but maybe they won't. It's just going to continue to go forward, and they're so arrogant that they're going to continue to push it, which is, you're right, which is probably going to be the case.
Well, I'm just going off what I saw in the U.S., where I think it was Israel funding and Ukraine funding was up. And in exchange, they closed down the border, or at least stop it. And the Biden administration wanted nothing to do with that, which is just showing it's pure, like they need the borders open. That's their priority. And I would say Ireland, having mingled with, the world politicians, they're all the same. Across the world, these type of socialist politicians. Let's keep the border open, and for what purpose? It's like you're not bringing everybody up. You're not bringing these immigrants up. You're bringing everybody down. And the people who paid for these services that have been in the country for 10, 20, 100 years, they're not getting those benefits anymore because you're giving them away. And you weren't voted to do that. So it's kind of, that's why I say term limits, because, you look at the clips from other podcasts with Joe Biden and the prime minister of the day. I mean, or both of them, because they flip and flop because there's two parties that make up this system in Ireland. They just didn't have enough votes to create one. And those guys have been in politics for 35 years, both of them, in Ireland and America. And it's just like, it's kind of ridiculous,
Right.
So I kind of think it's virtually everybody's been given the same marching orders, and they don't care, and they're going. But it will be a very interesting watch. People will get hurt, and how Ireland does it, because now they'll be blaming the rest of the world will be watching, and whether America kind of starts doing the same thing, or who knows what, I mean, you see the U.S. cities going crazy, and they're supposed to be, sanctuary cities, and they're going crazy over against some immigrants from Texas, bus to them, and they're illegal, and it's just like, it's just a crazy world, and we'll see who's going to get the blame game is what I'm looking for, and what happens next.
Yeah. Well, they call that not in my backyard. We want open borders, but we don't want them here. We want people to be able to come in without any papers or without any justification, etc. But as long as they're not in my neighborhood, and that's pretty typical of these folks too, that they think they're immune from it, and they can be immune for a while, but it's not going to be forever.
Correct. Exactly. And they would be primary targets. I mean, those are the guys you want to go rob, the rich guys. So I think, it's a bad situation. And that's, I guess we'll just wait and see. But that attitude is very much like, don't send them to Martha's Vineyard. And by the way, don't put any wind farms up there either. We just want that everywhere else, but we don't want to look at it. It's quite annoying, to be honest with you.
Yep. Well, we'll keep watching it anyway, and we'll keep talking about it, see how it goes. But just wanted to touch on that with those two new hotels there, and we'll look at it, as things change, and as we get more news, we'll continue to touch on it, and of course, continue to follow, obviously, Pierce Brosnan and see what he's like in his day in court.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's definitely not getting jail time, and his fine's going to be $5 to $5 grand or something like that.
Probably tops. Yeah, we'll see.
Whatever is worth, there he goes.
All right.
There it goes.
And with that, we'll call it for today, for the Green Island podcast for this afternoon or this evening, whenever you're listening to it. Appreciate folks joining, and also really appreciate if you go out and buy the book, Hard Border. And thank you so much, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks very much. Talk then.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Every year is my fucking year.